My name is Hannah Parker, and for years I believed one thing about family. They could hurt you, disappoint you, even misunderstand you. But they would never try to erase you. I was wrong. The house at 184 Maple Street in Nashville, Tennessee was more than a building. It was the place where I took my first steps. The place where my father taught me to ride a bike. The place where my mother measured my height against the kitchen wall every birthday. And most importantly, it was the last thing my grandmother left behind. After my grandmother Margaret Parker passed away, everyone expected the family to gather and grieve. Instead, they gathered and calculated. My older brother, Jason Parker, was the first one to call. "Hannah, we need to talk about Grandma's house." I already knew that tone. Jason only used that serious voice when he wanted something. "What about it?" He sighed. "You know, maintaining that property costs money." I looked around my apartment. The walls felt empty compared to Grandma's old house. "Grandma left it to all of us." "Exactly," he replied. "And I think we should sell." My heart sank. "No." A pause. Then he laughed. "Hannah, you're being emotional." That was Jason's favorite weapon. Whenever I disagreed, I wasn't logical. I was emotional. "I'm not selling Grandma's house." He became quiet. Then he said, "You don't get to decide alone." That sentence bothered me, because I remembered Grandma's final conversation with me. She held my hand and whispered, "Some people will fight for things. Some people will fight to take things." I didn't understand then. I did now. 2 weeks later, I drove to the house. The first thing I noticed was the lock. Changed. I tried my key. It didn't work. I stood there staring at the door. Confused. Then angry. I called Jason. He answered casually. "Hey, why did you change the locks?" Silence. Then, "Oh, you found out." My stomach dropped. Found out what? He didn't answer. My mother, Carol Parker, suddenly grabbed the phone. "Hannah, don't make this difficult." My own mother. "Make what difficult?" She sighed. "The house is already handled." My hands went cold. "What does that mean?" Jason came back on the phone. "We sold it." The world stopped. "You sold Grandma's house?" "Yes." "Without telling me." "Hannah, we had to move quickly." I couldn't breathe. "Who bought it?" Another pause. Then he said, "My wife's family." I laughed. A broken laugh. "You sold our family home to your in-laws. It stays in the family." "No." My voice shook. "You stole it." And then my mother said something I never expected. "You always make everything about yourself." That hurt more than the house. More than the sale. Because I realized, they didn't see what they did. Or maybe they didn't care. That night, I sat alone looking at the only thing I had left. A small brass key. Grandma gave it to me before she died. She told me, "Keep this safe. One day, you'll understand." At the time, I thought it was just a memory. It wasn't. The next morning, I called a lawyer. And that's when I learned something shocking. The house had never belonged only to Grandma. Years ago, before her death, she placed the property into a family trust. And the person controlling the trust, me, Jason, had sold a house he legally had no right to sell. But that wasn't the biggest surprise. My lawyer found something else. A hidden document. A letter from Grandma. The letter was dated 3 days before she died. It said, "If anyone tries to sell this house without Hannah's approval, she has the right to reveal everything." Everything. I didn't know what Grandma meant. Until my lawyer opened the second envelope. Inside were bank records, old payments, transfers, and a name. Jason. My brother hadn't just stolen the house. He had been taking money from Grandma for years. Money she thought was helping the family. But he was hiding it. I sat there staring at the papers. The brother who always called me selfish was the one who had been stealing. Then my phone rang. It was my mother. I almost didn't answer, but I did. "Hannah." Her voice sounded nervous. "We need to talk." "About what?" A pause. Then, Jason says you're threatening us. I looked at the documents on my table. No, Mom. My voice became calm. I'm telling the truth. She went silent, then whispered, "What did you find?" I smiled, because for the first time, they were afraid of me. I found Grandma's final gift. What gift? I looked at the old brass key and said, "The one thing you forgot." The line went silent. Then my mother said, "Hannah, what are you going to do?" I looked out the window, and for the first time in months, I felt like Grandma was standing beside me. I answered, "I'm coming home." I was talking about the truth. For years, my family made me feel like I was the difficult one, the sensitive one, the daughter who cared too much. But sitting there with Grandma's documents in front of me, I finally understood something. The truth doesn't need permission. It just needs someone brave enough to uncover it. The next morning, I drove back to 184 Maple Street. The house looked exactly the same from the outside. The old oak tree in the front yard. The porch where Grandma used to drink tea. The little crack in the walkway my father always promised to fix. But the new lock on the door reminded me of what they had done. Someone had tried to remove me from my own memories. I stood there holding the brass key Grandma gave me. The key they forgot about. I inserted it. The lock turned. My heart started beating faster, because I knew something was waiting inside. I opened the door. The house smelled like Grandma. Old books, wood, the lavender candles she loved. For a moment, I forgot everything. I could almost hear her voice. "Hannah, you're home." Then I noticed the changes. Boxes, missing furniture, empty walls. Jason had already started preparing the house for the buyers. He wasn't just selling a property. He was erasing a lifetime. I walked into Grandma's study. The room everyone ignored, because they thought it was full of old papers. They were right, but they didn't know Grandma. She never threw away anything important. I opened the old wooden cabinet. Inside was a hidden compartment. I remembered seeing it as a child. Grandma always smiled when I asked about it. Some secrets are only safe with the right person. I removed the panel. Behind it was a small envelope. My name was written on it. Hannah. My hands shook. I opened it. Inside was a letter. "My dear Hannah, if you are reading this, someone tried to take what wasn't theirs." I stopped. Grandma knew. She knew someone might do this. The letter continued. "I loved all my children and grandchildren, but love does not mean blindness." I felt tears in my eyes, because Grandma had seen everything. She wrote, "Jason has always wanted what others have. Your parents protected him because they believed they were keeping peace. But peace built on lies is not peace." I sat down, because every word was true. Then I reached the last part. "The house is not your inheritance." I froze. Not my inheritance. Then what was? The next sentence made my heart stop. "The house is a test." I read the sentence again. "The person who truly understands this family will know that the real treasure is hidden where memories live." I looked around, confused. Then I remembered something. Grandma's old piano. She always said, "People search for valuables in obvious places. Smart people search where love was stored." I walked to the piano. The one nobody touched. I opened the bottom compartment. Inside was a small metal box. I opened it. Inside were documents. Not jewelry. Not money. Something far more dangerous. Evidence. Bank records. Copies of messages. Proof Jason had manipulated Grandma. Proof he had secretly borrowed money. Proof he pressured her to change documents. And the biggest discovery. A recording. I found an old voice recorder. I pressed play. Jason's voice filled the room. "Grandma, just sign it. Hannah doesn't need to know." My blood turned cold. Then Grandma answered, "I know exactly what you're trying to do." Jason laughed. "You always trusted me." Grandma replied, "I trusted you to love your family." A pause. Then she said, "I was wrong." I covered my mouth. because hearing Grandma's voice again broke something inside me. But then came the final words. If you hurt Hannah, the truth will come out. The recording ended, and I knew. This was bigger than the house. Much bigger. That evening, I invited everyone over. Jason arrived first. He walked in like he owned the place. Hannah, he smiled, finally ready to be reasonable. I looked at him. No, his smile disappeared. My parents arrived behind him. My mother looked nervous. My father wouldn't make eye contact. Jason noticed. What is this? I placed the documents on the table. This is the part where your story ends. He picked up the papers. His face changed. What did you do? I laughed softly. What did I do? I pointed to the documents. This is everything you did. My father grabbed one page. Then another. His expression became darker. Jason, my brother looked around. Dad, don't listen to her. I pressed play on the recorder. His own voice filled the room. Everyone heard it. Every lie, every plan, every attempt to take control. My mother started crying, not because of me, because she finally understood. She looked at Jason. How could you? He stood there silently. Then suddenly, he looked at me. You think you're better than me? I shook my head. No. I stepped closer. I think Grandma was right. His eyes narrowed. What? She said love doesn't mean blindness. For once, Jason had nothing to say. The legal battle took months. The sale was canceled. The house returned to the family trust. And Jason had to answer for everything he did. But the biggest change wasn't the house. It was my parents. My mother called me weeks later. I don't know how to fix this. I looked at the old family photo on my wall. You start by telling the truth. She cried. I'm sorry. I believed she meant it. But forgiveness isn't a door you open instantly. Sometimes it's a path, one step at a time. Months later, I restored Grandma's house. Not as a museum, not as a reminder of betrayal. As a place where people could start again. I planted flowers on the porch. The same ones Grandma loved. And one evening, I sat there watching the sunset. I held her old letter one more time. The final line said, Hannah, never fight to prove your value. The people who truly love you already know it. I finally understood. Jason thought he was taking a house. My parents thought they were protecting a family. But Grandma left me something much bigger. She left me the truth. And the truth gave me back my home. Not the house. Me.